So the idea behind brand safety is that your game is an amazing brand that you've built. You have built an IP or you're licensing an IP, and anything that happens in this in-game world needs to reflect the caliber of that, right?
Hi, welcome back to Inside In-Game. In episode 2, we return to my recent chat with Tiffany Keller, AdInMo advisor and product director at Scopely. In part 2 of our discussion, we dive into the sensitivities surrounding brand safety and how in-game advertising is helping advertisers and publishers to better connect with players. So brand safety is a key consideration for advertisers, but how do publishers see programmatic advertising? Like anything goes, 100% goes of ad creatives, or how?
Yeah, I think this is a tough question because it's really going to vary depending on the publisher. If you're a hyper casual or hybrid casual publisher, you're probably going to be a lot less sensitive to brand safety because your average player retention is going to be lower. So the idea behind brand safety is that your game is an amazing brand that you've built. You have built an IP or you're licensing an IP, and anything that happens in this in-game world needs to reflect the caliber of that, right? But if you're a hyper casual or a hybrid casual publisher, you're not really building an IP. There would be no point. Like, could you imagine signing on an IP for a game where people play it an average of 3 days? It would not make sense. So in that case, you're going to be less sensitive to brand safety because if someone does see something that breaks their immersion in the world, well, I mean, maybe they'll leave your game a day early, but they won't leave your game a year early. And that's what you're saying is really the risk level there for games like Candy Crush, where a lot of people have been playing for years at this point. So within that, I think that some publishers are going to be very worried about it. Maybe this is one of the main reasons that they haven't tried a hybrid monetization strategy yet. Because if you're doing in-app purchases only in your game, you have complete control over anything that the players are seeing. It's all content that you've made. As soon as you bring ads into the game, you're accepting that there are, and this is something you should look into when you're talking to a potential ad provider, safeties in place to audit the creatives coming in, that they are appropriate for your game. But you do have to accept that a certain percentage of them are going to be what companies like Facebook might call miscategorized. So when you look at the categories of ads that you would allow, because like I said, every publisher is different. Some publishers might allow ads for casinos or something like diet pills in their game because they have an adult audience and that's fine for them. But a lot of game publishers might not want to allow that. So that doesn't mean that those ads are bad, but they would say, I don't want that category of ads in the game. And at some level, you need to trust that your ad provider's software for being able to tell if these ads fit that category is actually accurate. And I would always ask for data on how the provider would look at this if they're doing something programmatic. If they don't have any measurement system for what percent are miscategorized, of which we know in the industry, there's always some because this is like a programmatic process. Some can always get through. I would feel worried about working with them if you do have a strong brand safety. But it's, I think, important to know that miscategorized does not mean inappropriate. It just means that maybe an ad that said it was about personal finance actually is maybe an ad for Coinbase. And so it incorporates something about crypto in the ad. And that might be something that's fine, and it might be something that you don't like. Occasionally, there might be ads that are inappropriate. So it's important to know that whatever provider you're working with has fail safes in place here and that they know how accurate those fail safes are. I think a solution, though, to this is to start with a direct stream. So many ad providers will actually know all of the brands that they're working with. They'll do something called a direct campaign. They know what these creatives look like. In that case, I would say there's very little risk. And the upside of this is because the provider has actually worked directly with the brand knows they're going to be in these games or with these partners that the provider works with. And typically the brand has a special timing or event that they want to promote, which is why they're reaching out directly. It means that these ads are going to go for a higher CPM. So you'll get more money per impression as well. And you know that this brand thinks your game or this group of games is a great fit for their product, which means that probably your players will also think it's a higher quality ad. So if you're worried about something like this, you can dip your toes in with direct. And then over time, you can do some tests with programmatic. You can also have an ad operations specialist on your team as a publisher who regularly audits and looks through these ads so that on your side, you're also checking, okay, how is this going in the relationship between us and the ad provider?
How do you think publishers may be interested in the in white labeling? Because sometimes it's like quite not easy, you know, to make sure that the partner with whom you work with uh, brings those quality you consider as quality, and maybe it's easier for publisher, especially big one, to work directly with a brand. How often it happens, like when let's say Nike or some major brand comes to the publisher with a collaboration proposition or something like that.
Yeah, this is actually a really interesting opportunity. So I'm glad that you mentioned it. I think it's a great one for big publishers out there where you would say, like, yes, we have built an IP. Either we've licensed one and we have, a Disney game or a Marvel game or something like that, or we've built one over time ourselves, like Candy Crush is recognizable across the world now. So is Subway Surfers, which are all publishers that I've worked on. I think that in this case, a brand, would hear if they would hear your opportunity and say, hey, yeah, me as a typical advertising person in fashion or something, I know what that IP is, then you're in a good spot. If you feel like you would reach out to someone in New York about an opportunity to work with their product and they would ask, who are you? Then you're probably going to have a more difficult time doing white labeling. But this can make sense for those bigger publishers because they're going to have the most stringent brand safety requirements because they have put all of this investment into building their IP. I think this is a super interesting space that we're seeing games do more and more of. So some of the ones that I've seen recently are Subway Surfers actually had a custom live ops event with Burger King where there was actually a Burger King branded event where as you ran through the city, you would see Burger King just like naturally placed there. And as you went through the different tiers earning points, you could actually get the Burger King as a character that you could then run with. So
I
that
actually,
was,
I'm really sorry. I do remember this collaboration between them.
did
I
you play
think
it?
yeah, I played through
Oh,
the
fantastic.
period of time. Yeah, through the period of time when it happened. And actually, I've been thinking, it's like this is a direct collaboration. Burger King came directly, said like we have this idea, and like the process started. We as in-game advertiser, in-game placement advertiser, we have an opportunity, to prepare placements for brands. So you do not need to create a placement specifically, to create a burger sign or like a car sign or something. You already have a placement where you can put your stuff of high quality, video or whatever you want, and basically it's even easier for a publisher, for a developer to do that, because there is already a solution. There are prefabs, there are placements, and you just need to serve this through a game. And you can also change. It may be Burger King this month, or Milka next month, or next quarter. So
Mhm.
what stops game developers, like studios, from integrating placements that can hold multiple brands and multiple direct campaigns, from creating a special prefabs for specific brand once a year, let's say.
Yeah, I think that that's a good point, and it's something from working at large publishers I've seen is there's not necessarily a good reason it's difficult. More than that, the way that we see both on brands and on game teams, how the different streams are organized is very interesting, and it just makes it hard to coordinate these things across the game. So I actually think working with a developer that the publisher trusted to do most of the heavy lifting for them, and then if they wanted to do a custom piece of this brand activation, like the Burger King thing that I mentioned, that would be like the icing on top of the cake. And I think we've seen Candy Crush do things like this, like with the Sonic the Hedgehog movie coming out. I also think with Jumanji, where there was a special brand activation that they did specifically. So their game team actually created these in-game assets. At the same time, they also positioned special ads for Jumanji to then play through the rewarded video when players would then choose to watch a video. So you got both money from the impressions coming through that were a direct campaign with this brand. And then you also got the money coming through of you had a cool in-game activation. Often publishers request a lump sum for this, but you see that if this is something where the brand makes sense to your players, they love it and they play more, which also means you see in-app purchases go up, or they might watch more of these ads. So what you're hoping for when you're doing this coordination that you spoke about is not like a 1 + 1 = 2 sort of effect, but a 1 + 1 = 3, where they're having a fully branded experience. And so they're more immersed, and you see session times increase. You see like possibly conversion rates increase, depending if maybe you put some branded assets in the store that they can also purchase directly. So a lot of this takes often 6 months to plan out. And that's why we don't see it happen very much. I think the idea of having in-game billboards or any of the ad placements or the in-play ads, as you said, where it's just very easy when you know, okay, 6 months later, because probably if we're doing a really cool Burger King thing in our app, we were talking to someone who's a vice president there, because this is like not something that they do very often. So this is planned way far in advance. If I could just talk to my ad provider and ask them, hey, like, what can you line up for me in all of my ad placements? That would be super helpful. Probably, though, I would need to talk to, if I'm a big publisher, 3 or 4 ad providers that I've integrated into the game. And they are not going to coordinate amongst each other. So now I need to hire someone who's going to coordinate between all of these different ad providers, which is why you see only large publishers do this. Often you just simply don't have enough time to try and go to Burger King and also say, hey, I want like Burger King rewarded video and I want Burger King interstitial ads the same time that this is happening in the game. Even the teams that you talk to at these brands would be entirely different teams. One of them is the agency that has the standard ads that the brand is doing, and you're trying to sell them on what you're doing in your game that's special, where you talk to maybe a completely different agency, or you talk to the brand themselves because maybe they're giving you hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this activation up front. So you're having to, like, on one side within the game, coordinate a different game activity. You're now needing to like suddenly be a salesperson, go to several different ad agency teams, and you need to line it up with your ad providers that you've integrated. It's difficult to the point of I often see these successfully done with teams of 5 on this all the time within large publishers, because large publishers are the only ones that have access to this opportunity. So if someone can solve that and make it so that these publishers that have built a good brand, but they only maybe have one ad monetization manager, but it's like that easy that this person can manage this in like 10 hours a week, a couple times a year, like I think that could be a great opportunity.
What excites you about in-game advertising formats specifically?
I think that I am excited to see, as difficult as it's been to adjust as an in-game ads industry to different privacy changes. I can't deny that it is often creating more player-friendly behaviors amongst both publishers and ad providers. So now that we're focusing on what players are just doing in the game to serve ads, and we're seeing that there's more opportunities to make them feel more native and immersive in the game, we're ultimately coming out with better features as game publishers and developers, which later down the line, especially as I'm sure there will be new ways and are currently new ways invented of getting the necessary data signals and ingesting them in a way where you can then adjust and start making more money per ad impression again, just in a way that's more player friendly and will have done the work on the user experience side to make it more fun. Those are the things that I like, that I believe probably should have been there from the outset. There's maybe some side effects that are not as great, like some publishers are simply trying to show more ads, but I think they're quickly seeing that that is actually not working very well. And so they need to show better ads. And this is what I'm excited about. I think the in-play ads with the billboards are surprising a lot of us, in that if you think what games are good to have branded billboards, you sort of think racing games and maybe some like post-apocalyptic games where, okay, yeah, you're already in the real world, so like a Coca-Cola billboard makes sense. But I've seen these popping up in so many different games, and I've been really impressed with how native to the experience that they feel. And I think any game where you have buildings in it and an environment where there is walls or anything that's fabricated, you actually are putting things that are like pictures on those walls or other art assets. And in the future, these actually could all be branded in a way that makes the game feel more alive. That's what I'm more excited for. Also for these brand activations, there's an interesting feeling of like coming into the game, and it's new, not just in the way where you often see games will sort of recycle great ideas. So it's like, okay, cool, what am I going to win today for doing all of these levels and hitting these point tiers? And you know, like, okay, maybe it's going to look a little different, but when you always sit within the game universe and you don't leave, unless you have a giant team of character artists and narrative designers, if you're a player who comes in every day, which these are the players you're making your money from, it does seem to feel like it can easily get stale. So coming into the game and actually you see Prada in there in a way that makes sense, that's really cool. As someone who loves that brand, I would like to see that in more of my games if it's done well. I think that just before, as players and game developers, we just thought it was impossible to do well. But now that you're seeing it is, you see more of these publishers are going in and making that investment.
Thanks for watching, and thanks again to Tiffany for speaking to us. Please like the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content from AdInMo. Episode 3 of Inside In-Game will be available next month. And for more information about in-game play advertising, visit our website at www.adinmo.com.